Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blue Soccer. Again, John, Dave and myself are going to look back over Ireland's victory against Canada in the Rugby World Cup, all the other games that were played last weekend, and of course discuss Kevin McLaughlin's untimely retirement from the pro game. Alright boys, we'll start with Kevin. He had to call it quits after a concussion he received against Edinburgh the weekend, or a few weekends ago.
Very sad. 31 years of age, same age as Dennis Hickey when he retired, but Dennis Hickey made the choice himself. He was a guy who was a great player. I loved watching him, but his career seemed to be bounded by lots of injury. Like, he had a lot of injuries early on, and now a lot of injuries in the last couple of years. And he kind of came into his own, as everybody knows, when Rocky Elsom left, and he stepped up and went through Leinster's best period, really, as the starting six. With O'Brien swapping across and Jennings coming on. Last couple of years, he's just had, after the All Blacks game, I think it was, where he played for Ireland, came on as a replacement for Ireland. He hasn't really been healthy too. He hasn't been fit to play too often since then, which is.
But he was held in great esteem by Smith. He picked him in those matches, those autumn internationals, when he took over as the Ireland coach, and then of course he did get injured, and that seemed to be, he was on a bit of a downward spiral.
He was a guy that Joe Schmidt trusted. I mean, you don't pick a guy you don't trust for a game against the All Blacks. He picked him in all the big knockout matches that he was available for. And it's funny in a way, we're talking about what might have been for a guy who's got 2 Heineken Cups, an Amlin Challenge Cup, Pro 12s, played for Ireland. It's just, I suppose it's kind of a sign of how good he actually was, that even for a guy who's achieved all that much, there's an element of what might have been about the thing. And we had somebody on Twitter asked, James Murphy asked about saying it was terrible news and that he was a great servant and he wishes him well. But he's asking, obviously, with sport, it's always got the king is dead, long live the king, and the question is who's going to take over. Obviously,
I was just going to say, one thing about McLaughlin was that he was in the most competitive area of the pitch.
Oh yeah,
there was so many top-notch Leinster
and
Irish
back
rowers that were playing at the same time as his career.
He played probably at the same time as Ireland's greatest depth in that position. I mean, obviously there was himself. He would have been a peer of Alan Quinlan's. Dennis Leamy was playing around that same time. I think that was Dennis Leamy's best position. Stephen Ferris. There's a lot of guys knocking around the place. John Muldoon over in Connacht, much underrated, but they're all natural sixes, and I think it was if it wasn't for the fact that, and Simon Easterby of course as well at the end of his career, if he hadn't overlapped, he might have had a lot more Irish caps.
Yeah, he had he had an arse pocket so full of medals that he could hardly sit down. But he started, I suppose, when Easterby was playing. He was just before he kind of broke on the scene, and back then he was an 8.
Yeah,
I mean, he was always 8 before Rocky Elsom retired, basically. And all his early caps under Cheika were at 8, and I think in school he played it. I could be wrong there, but he was a 6. He never played 8 once Joe Schmidt came along, and once he stepped up to replace Rocky. So, you said that was a very all the back row positions, but 6 in particular in both Leinster and Ireland. You had Dominic Ryan coming through, Sean O'Brien able to step across from 7.
And I think you're
Rhys
saying
Ruddock coming on,
Sean stepping across from 7. One of the most telling uses of Kevin O'Brien at 6 was against Leicester in the quarter final in 2011. Leicester, fearsome line out strength up and down the line, and Kevin McLaughlin was used to disrupt that, and disrupted it good-o. And you could see that the faith. I mean, Joe Schmidt basically put the central plank of his game plan in Kevin McLaughlin's hands that day, because his game plan was not to let Leicester have easy line-out ball.
Yeah, well, he'd be sorely missed by Leinster anyway.
He will. Oh, he will. He'd be sorely missed. And by the play, he was like having dealings with him when I was involved with the supporters club. Such a nice guy as well. I mean, a genuinely nice guy, and he'd be missed both on and off the pitch.
Yeah, well, we wish him the very best for his future career. Well, anyway, Ireland got off to a flying start against Canada, 50 points to 7. 7 tries.
Canada!
You were over there, Dave.
I was. It was
atmosphere
brilliant.
Good.
Atmosphere was magnificent. It was. a festival of rugby. It felt like a festival of rugby. Cardiff really did a great job as hosts. From the obviously the magnificent Millennium Stadium itself to the fan zone in the Cardiff Arms Park where we watched South Africa against Japan. Everybody's seen the video of the Irish fans that going absolutely mental when Japan won. I was in the middle of it. It just standing behind, incidentally, a quite not quite elderly, but certainly in very late middle aged Japanese couple who went absolutely bonkers. But then I suppose that's to be expected when something like that happens. But it was great result. Well, it was a great result. It was an expected result. Let's be honest. Canada are about as good as Cardiff were the week before, if you know what I mean.
I thought we were a bit rusty. You know, people have been talking up the game, and you know, with some justification. But I thought we really took our time getting into it. If Cudmore hadn't have been Sinbind, I wonder
17 minutes when he got
scored
Sinbind,
so many
and
tries.
then we think they conceded 3 tries while he was off the pitch.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was pretty tight up to that point. Now I think they were going to score.
Mm-hmm.
Only he got Sinbind. So
Yeah, but I mean, to a certain extent, Ireland are playing like Joe Schmidt's Leinster team.
Showing nothing.
They play in intense bursts.
but just ruthless when they do get that.
Yeah.
When they get the.
I mean, how many times we said that Leinster would disappear for 20 minutes of a match, and Ireland do the same kind of thing. I mean, they still do the basics well, but some of this, there's certainly a case of sleepy snooze been taken at half time. But you know, what else did they have to do? They got the bonus point in, what was it, 32 minutes?
Something like that.
You know, you don't get any super bonus points.
No,
You
sadly.
So
But I'm sure that there was always in the back of someone's mind they didn't want to get injured in a game like that and be out for the rest of the tournament. And you know, it's kind of a case of just get the job done and get off the pitch, get the points, and go home.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, you know, getting through this game and hopefully the next game without injuries is going to be a big plus. You could also see, we said it at the English game in the last game of the warm-ups, that we were well off the pace in terms of England. We were kind of using that as a warm-up match and trying to get all our systems going. But these two are effectively warm-up games as well. You know, I mean, Romania are the second lowest ranked team in the competition, and I just, you know, what we'll do is I'm sure we'll just get all the guys who have any kind of niggles out of the picture, and any guys who need a bit of warming up into the picture, and fill the rest out with guys who need a bit of practice in a certain position, like maybe
I still
Cave
think
or
within the game the weekend that we did open the playbook a little bit.
Yeah.
Like for instance, you know, Murray and Sexton just were fantastic, and it doesn't matter who you're playing. You could be playing the All Blacks, you could be playing Canada. You still have to do your job. Like
Yeah.
Sexton had to execute his line kicks. You can't, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you're playing. You still have got to get your kicks. He bounced 2 or 3 of them within 5 meters of the line.
Yeah.
Murray's
Beautiful.
box kicking was phenomenal, and the guy we spoke about last week, who confuses me, but Henderson was.
no, he was superb. He was
fantastic.
absolutely superb. But again, it's Canada.
It is. You
But
have to
having
take
said
that.
that, that's actually one of Canada's strengths that he was going up against. So, yeah, I mean, it's like I said last week. I mean, there's no point in keeping things under wraps for the World Cup. We're actually at the World Cup now, so you start to draw the wraps back, and we saw a slightly more expansive game. Again, without having to do too much. There was some nice moves, but there was nothing particularly, oh my god, I've never seen that move before about anything that we did. It was functional, it was efficient, and that's all it needed to be.
Those kind of moves are known as October the 11th moves.
Yeah.
And that's the day you're gonna, you know, that's the day we play France. That's the day you're gonna see those moves unfurled. If there are any big surprise plays in there, that's when they're coming out, because why mess about otherwise? You know?
At the end of the day, you look at what Joe Smith got out of it. He got his bonus point.
Yeah.
The guys he wanted to get a run in that match did get a run. Nobody appears to have picked up any injuries. Everyone played pretty well.
There was one selection that was a bit unusual, I think, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, but it was Luke Fitzgerald and selected 12 ahead of Cave and other possibilities. Madigan could have got in there as well. You know, and I think we have a tweet, don't we, Dave, on Fitzgerald?
Do we see, it was from Irish Underage Rugby asking about, after the World Cup, do we see Fitzgerald playing 12 for Leinster? I don't know what Leo and at the moment Gerv feel about it. Joe has liked him at 12 before, and used him at 12 before. I think he has the skills for it, he has the physique for it. I mean, people forget that Luke is actually a pretty big guy. So it's hard to know. I mean, it's hard, their thought process might be the same. I think it worked.
Mm.
Whether he wants to pursue it any further, or it was just a matter of, I know this guy will do a job against this opposition for this match because Henshaw's injured. Whether there's any more to it than that, I don't know.
Well, you know, if there seems to be a lot of guys rolling out of Leinster, like poor old Kevin McLaughlin gone today, Gordon Darcy retiring.
Luke's pretty much one of the most experienced players now.
Yeah, losing Kane Douglas. You know, there have been quite a few players that Leinster have lost, just, you know, that you wouldn't have expected to lose. Okay, probably Darcy you would expect, but the rest of them, you know. So, is that going to bring, like, who we got at 12? We were talking about maybe slipping Teo into 12 and putting Ringrose in 13. Not sure that he's going to do that. Noel Reid seems to be the man now. But when Luke goes back, do they shuffle that around? To be honest, I wouldn't read too much into the whole Luke at 12 thing. I just think
He did a job against a certain opposition.
He did a job against a certain opposition, and
did it well.
And he didn't. He was able to slot in and not shift the team around. Like, if you start shifting Payne to 12 and putting this guy here and that, you know, Luke slots in and does the job. Why they didn't use Cave is the question. Like, maybe there's another plan there. Maybe Cave has a niggle. Who knows? But, you know, Luke is well able to do the job, and he can step in anywhere from 11 to 15. Okay, possibly 15 is not his forte, but certainly the other all of the other positions he can slot in, and that in itself, a bit like Ian Madigan, covering a lot of positions, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it's great to be versatile. It gets you into 23, but it doesn't always get you into 15. You know, and maybe that's why he's playing there, to get the 20. See, is he going to be in the 23 jersey? You know, for the
Plus,
big
I
game?
mean, in fairness to him, I mean, he did all he wanted. I mean, if you were Joe Schmidt, you would have been happy, because Joe Schmidt likes guys who are functional and who are efficient, and he was functional and efficient, and then he added a little bit on top of it as well, because he's a very good player. Himself and Keith Earls actually played really well when they linked up together. Keith Earls on the wing, his best position, always say that, is his best position. Even his passing when he's playing on the wing looks better than when he's playing at centre. I thought Keith Earls looked really, really good as well. So, I mean, yes, it was Canada, but there were Canada are strong on the wings. I mean, that's where their strength, we'd said beforehand, was. So for Earls to look good in that position shows that he's in form, and, you know, it's a position where there might be a selection opportunity there for a player.
And from to find Rob Kearney when you would have thought that he would have just kept going, you know.
Well, he might have done that under Kidney. I remember him he played in the centre against England when Tom Court got destroyed. But like
12.
he was shocking. But he was playing on the wing last weekend, and, as you say, far more efficient, and the passes he gave inside was lovely.
I thought he played really well. I'm always happy to see him on the wing. I think he's a great winger.
The vision to see the pass, and okay, I'm sure Kearney was calling for it, but, you know, the vision to see that there were three guys running for him and nobody was tracking Kearney at all. So, you know.
It was a nice play from Kearney. I mean, Kearney gave him the ball early.
It's hard to see that when you're running that fast, you know, because the guy is behind you. You know, he may be calling, but it's very hard to see that and judge the pass while moving it.
Kearney made the pass early to give him a chance to use his pace, but then didn't die. Kept following him up and provided a passing option for him. So Kearney can be. I thought Rob Kearney had a very good game, actually.
Yeah. Especially seeing as he's kind of had a niggle himself.
Yeah,
you know.
Said he was exhausted after it.
That's right. Yeah, I heard that.
But I thought Sexton. You know, like a lot of people were saying, it was Henderson should have got the man of the match. Sexton was superb in the game. Even the try that he took reminded me of.
He flew, didn't he? For that
he
made a shift.
But it reminded me of the try that he scored against Saracens in Wembley.
Yeah.
I know 3 or 4 years ago. Just went to the same corner.
Yeah.
But like, you could just he was shouting at him, "Give me that ball," and he just went zoom.
October 2010, and he scored all 25 points. If I'm not mistaken.
You probably are, but we won't argue.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
The thing we had last week about Henderson was, is he going to replace Toner? Is he going to replace O'Mahony? More I think about it, I'd be happy for him to replace either of them, or indeed to remain on the bench, tearing up trees when he comes on. I do think he probably will start, but either starting at 6 and moving forward, like we were saying last week, I think actually that could be a great ploy for the France game. You know, having him there.
There was another guy actually that said he was exhausted when he came off the pitch.
Henderson. Or starting in the row and moving back to 6 at some, less likely, that one, to be honest. But I can see, because you want him on the pitch for 80 minutes. He's so bloody good.
The one thing about guys being, I mean, the Millennium Stadium can sometimes be a very hard stadium in terms of fitness because it's dead air.
Yeah.
And there's no air coming
hot
in.
as well.
It's hot as well. It's a fantastic ball with the roof closed. It's like nothing else
Makes
on
it
earth.
greasy too as well.
Yeah, but it does make it hard for the players because there's no air moving. It's hard to get air into your lungs.
So, like, obviously, there's a lot of highlights, a couple of lowlights as well, though. I thought, Jared Payne had his worst game for Ireland.
I don't know.
He got blocked twice. I thought some of his...
That one where he gave away the try was, badly executed.
What about the other one where Sexton kicked over to him and the far side of 22 and he got blocked as well?
Yeah.
Like, that's two attacking moments that he had and he blew.
But on the other hand, he made more than double the amount of tackles that the rest of the back line. I mean, I think if you added up the entire back three, they still didn't make as many tackles as he did, which is extraordinary for a centre. He made 14 or 15 tackles.
Like, he's got a great rugby brain. He doesn't have the pace that he had before he did his cruise shit there 3 years ago. Because he was super fast when he played in New Zealand. But he's got a fabulous brain, and I always say about Kiwis and their basics, they all have good basics, but he's got, that's what the All Blacks always do so well. The basics executed under pressure, continuously, every time, forwards and backs able to pass and all. He has all of that stuff.
Darcy
he can defend well at 13.
And both blocks would have been black cards in Gaelic football for foot blocks.
Well, Darcy name-checked him in the same category as O'Driscoll as the two most talented and skillful players within the... So we know that he has...
I take his word for it.
Yeah, but I would have just said
I can
that...
see what you mean about the blocks. I mean...
Like, they are... I don't know whether it was fatigue or just lack of concentration, but it's you get so few opportunities to get into an attacking position. Against Canada, they clearly aren't the world beaters, but you're in the last 5 minutes against France and you have to score a try.
But do you try that in the last 5 minutes against France? I mean, the situation's slightly different. I mean, you look at it. I mean, he was the best defender in the back line. And actually, he made the most clean breaks of any of the backs as well. So
I thought he had a decent
yeah,
game.
I mean,
he made a couple of mistakes.
He made a couple of mistakes, but I thought he played quite well actually. Yeah, because I watched the game at the time. I kind of was feeling things are kind of dying with him a bit. And then I watched the game on the ferry on the way back, and then I watched it again yesterday morning. And no, I'd have to say no. I thought he played pretty well.
Another guy who played well when he came on was Madigan. I thought.
Yeah.
I thought he was quite impressive, and he's he seems to be, his versatility is obvious, but he seems to be keeping Paddy Jackson in the back seat. I'm sure Paddy will get a start or maybe a bench against Romania, depending on how much Sexton needs a run. But I think, the more I see Madigan at this level being given, with good coaching obviously as well, I just think he's the kind of guy you want to come on to break up a game if a game and he can kick well. He can do quite a lot of things that could close out a game. If Sexton got injured after,
you might have a situation, say against France, where both of them are on the bench. Because depending on how things are going, he might want one or the other, and because of Madigan's versatility, it allows him to do that. Because if
that'd
he's
be a risky move, though.
It would be a risky move, but if you're in a situation against France when there's 5 minutes or 10 minutes left, and you have to change your out half, and you're holding on, you're going to want your controller there. Or you want somebody to control the ball and run the game out. You want Jackson, but if you're chasing it, you're going to want Madigan. So you might want either or.
Balance that risk against Conor Murray going down after 5 minutes, and you got to have to play out.
I wouldn't. No, I'm not saying I'd have him at scrum half. I'd say because of Madigan's versatility as a backline player, he could be used
at 23.
I'd have a specialist out half plus him at 23. That's what I'd be saying. No, I wouldn't. I don't. I mean, we've had a question in about Madigan at scrum half, and it says again from underage rugby, might Madigan be trialled at 9 for Leinster post Rugby World Cup? I bloody well hope not. I mean, we have Owen Redden.
A big hole there.
We have Owen Redden. Okay,
goes.
Isaac Boss is pushing on, but we've got Luke McGrath, we've got Nick McCarthy. You kind of start to move these guys forward. We've already seen McGrath during the World Cup beginning to get game time. You've got to start moving these guys up the road, kind of thing. Especially if you've got a situation where maybe Isaac Boss is going to start looking at the exit door of his career at the end of the season or whatever.
Well, it's a fine line. On one hand, you're fluting Borrell Madigan around by having him, because he's already covering 15, 10, 12, probably 13 if you let him. So to have him covering 9 as well is kind of dicking him a bit. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't. But if you're going to try that risky thing where you have him covering 9, say on the bench for a Leinster match, in the Rabba or in the Pro 12,
I mean,
I take that risk in a Pro 12 game.
but there's no point in it in a Pro 12 game anymore,
yeah,
because
exactly.
the World Cup will be over and there'll be no limitations on players and how close they can be, etc., for Ireland.
That's
So
true.
the need for it's a finite. The need for Madigan to play 9, or the potential need for Madigan to play 9,
Yeah.
is a finite need,
Yeah.
and it ends the moment the World Cup ends.
Yeah, that's probably my considered view. People have been crying for him at 9 for. Few people have been crying for him.
People have been crying
a
for
while.
Sean O'Brien, a hooker as well.
Not
He
many.
played hooker once, didn't he?
He did.
Against
Threw the ball
Wasps.
into the
Yeah,
line
by
out, shall we
accident.
say.
I remember Brent Pope actually at the Tullow Six Nations dinner, Tullow Rugby Club Six Nations dinner, calling for Sean O'Brien to be moved to hooker and getting roundly booed off the stage.
Well, he called for quite a lot of people to be moved to hooker in his time, hasn't
Yeah, I think he was a bit obsessed with hookers.
he? Yeah, well,
Anyway,
we'll leave that one there.
Moving swiftly on, I don't mean that the way it sounded.
Well, anyway, I suppose the game of the weekend was Japan against South Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just what this
awesome.
tournament what every tournament needs, an opportunity for so-called minnow to topple over a two-time champion.
The word awesome is generally overused in today's society, so it has lost its extreme
Impact.
its impact. But that was truly awesome on so many levels. The fact that they didn't kick at the end, the fact that they went out and won that game, they took it off South Africa. They didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even the winning of the match. It was the manner
The
of
way
the
they
winning of
did
the
it.
match. It was like, you show me another minnow. I don't like using the so-called minnows that they use in football, or the so-called lesser teams. Yeah, they are the lesser teams. You show me another minnow who would pass up the opportunity of a draw against the two-time world champions on the biggest stage and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to settle. We're going to go for the win.
Particularly when their coaches and physios were all shouting at them to take the points.
But
But it just
haven't they
shows
always-
the belief that they have.
Haven't they always been like that? Even like at the last World Cup where they had JK coaching them, they were exactly
Yeah.
the same. And they wouldn't kick points. They always went for, even when they were getting hockeyed they were in the All Blacks group, and when they were getting lashed out of it by the All Blacks, they were still going for the
But
try.
at
They were running
in
it,
games
they
like
were-
that, you always will go for it because you always give it a lash. Even if you're beaten by 100 points, what's the point taking
They
a kick?
did it against
It
Tonga
went-
as well.
But
and-
when you've got an opportunity to win to draw a game, it's very difficult to turn that down and to go for it.
But
Not
it's
for them, it
only
wasn't.
that, but it's not only that. It was continually South Africa scored, then they came back. South Africa went ahead again, and they came back, and they
Every
did that
time.
3 or 4 times, and then that last 5 minutes was just fantastic.
It was unbelievable. I mean, it really was. They're superlatives. Throw whatever superlatives you want at it because you won't see the like of that again. Or,
The games-
certainly haven't seen it before in rugby.
the thing about the Rugby World Cup is it has thrown up games like this before in the past.
Not
When-
quite at that level.
Maybe not, but when Western Samoa beat Wales,
And Fiji beat them.
and
in
Fiji
07.
beat them in 07. I mean, a result like that validates the tournament.
But just they're few and far between.
They are, but if you have one every
Yeah,
tournament,
yeah.
one every tournament and a half,
Yeah.
even, it shows that it's not like the Rugby League World Cup where you've got 8 teams from Australia masquerading under different country names, and then Australia and England to decide and New Zealand to decide who wins it. This shows that there's at the end of the day, there's only going to be the 5 or 6 winners. Or the winner can only really come from 5 or 6 countries. But it shows that there's a genuine competitiveness down through the ladder. And that's what you want. I mean, it doesn't matter if Fiji or Uruguay can't live with New Zealand. What matters is that Fiji, Uruguay can live with one another. And make those games competitive. And then before long, the winner of that game becomes competitive with the next tier up.
Well, I don't think Uruguay are going to live with Fiji.
No, I don't think they're going to live with Fiji. That might have been the greatest example, but you know what the sense of what I'm saying is that
But-
within the World Cup, there's genuine competitiveness in a number of fixtures.
But Japan
Georgia,
have,
however.
Japan have a lot of things going for them. Like they have their own professional league.
Yeah.
They've got, unlike say Argentina, where their administrators seem to be wanting to shoot themselves in the foot. The Japanese, you would imagine by the fact that they have professional league that they only allow 2 foreign players to be on the pitch at any one time.
There's a lot of money in their league.
There seems to be a lot of money in it, and the foreigners that are playing in the league generally have a rake of international caps, so they're pretty good. You know, like, and then as you were saying, Dave, like they have a lot of money thrown at them as well.
Their international team is extraordinarily well funded.
The most amazing thing, though, is the way they played as a team.
Also, they're mad. Like the former president, well, the former president of the Japanese Rugby Union, he had signed up to become a kamikaze pilot, but luckily for him, the war ended 2 days before he was due to take off on a plane and smash into the side of an American boat.
But I think one of the things that Eddie Jones in particular did, because he understands Japanese culture much better than his predecessors as well. Japan have had Western coaches before, but who haven't really understood the culture the way that Eddie Jones has.
Well, JK played there for years. And,
yeah, but so Eddie Jones lives there. He's married there. He's naturalised the whole lot.
His mother was Japanese.
His mother was Japanese as well. The first thing Eddie Jones did was get rid of all those mad bastards, because he's no time for that. What he needs is professionals. The first thing he had to do was, I mean, it's funny enough how they ended up winning the match, because that was a kind of a trait he was trying to, he's successfully managed to kind of coach out of them, where they don't have to go gung-ho for every opportunity that they get, where sometimes they can think a bit more tactically.
But he's probably channeled that spirit in a more professional way, but that's still there. You know.
Yeah, but
the phrase "brave blossoms" doesn't really translate well into English.
No.
That's the name for their team.
But what he did was,
they certainly exemplified.
They might be brave blossoms, but the days of the mad bastard are gone.
Well, are you enjoying the tournament? Because
oh god, yeah,
like it's you know, all the stadiums have been full, which is fantastic. I mean, even that match down in Brighton, there was 29,000.
Really enjoyed Georgia and Tonga. I thought that was a cracker of a game. Kind of didn't go the way I expected.
Probably
Tonga,
anyone expected Georgia to win that.
I think Tonga were better than Georgia in the scrums, which I didn't expect. But Georgia's backs were better than Tonga's.
It's odd, that, isn't
yeah.
it? And Georgia's backs are all amateur, I think.
Yeah, but
Tonga's are probably all playing in France.
In the loose, Georgia's pack was superb. Go Godse was absolutely superb. He really was. And their maul was just on a different level to Tonga. And Tonga couldn't live with it. Again, what we saw was a team that was a better prepared team. Georgia had thought about how they were going to beat Tonga and then put the plan into action. And didn't let, I mean, sometimes if a team has a real strength, like Georgia would have in the scrum, and that's taken away from them, they kind of fold, but they didn't let that happen.
Hammer the hammer, as they say.
But they didn't let that happen. They had obviously plan B, which they was successful. And that was
Africa could have done with a plan B.
South Africa could have done with a plan B. I'm sure their sports minister will be ringing up Henrik and Meyer to offer him plan B in their daily telephone call.
I've heard it said, I mean, look, against us in the November International, they were the same thing. We were beating them and they'd no plan B.
They're an old side, and it looks like
they're too arrogant to have a plan B, though. They trust their physicality, and that's it.
When South Africa first came out of international isolation, they found to their shock that the whole picking a bunch of big lads is no longer going to be good enough.
They still do it.
That's what I'm
saying. Their back rows.
That's what they seem to have gone back to that, and like that's how we beat them last time in last autumn, was because they were big, but they were a bit stupid.
But they've played the same way for 100 years. You know, like New Zealand have innovated. Australia definitely are innovators. France, Wales, even England. But South Africa just pick
big lads.
15 monsters and expect to bludgeon you to death. And it does work sometimes. And in certain eras, it works.
Because, I mean, as well as being monsters, a lot of them are quite good rugby players. But if you get guys who are monsters, who are able to deal with monsters and are better rugby players. I always use the example, I remember, I think it was 2006, South Africa came here with a huge team. Pierre Spies was playing number 8. And Dennis Leamy hit him and absolutely cleaned him out. Because your man was twice the size of Dennis Leamy, but Dennis Leamy had all the technique. And it made a huge difference. South Africa were driven back every single time because Ireland knew what they were doing.
But even like at the Autumn International last year, like we thought, well, you know, it was quite pessimistic because how are we going to get stuffed? We weren't playing well, and they just came out and they just looked like they made South Africa look like a very, very poor team, and they haven't moved on like in that year. I just thought that their star players all look very old. Shaq Burger looked.
They are old.
That's the thing.
Their coach is. I don't think their coach has given them a lot. I think he's kind of a bit conservative, And then of course they're hampered by the politics going on there as well. So
A lot of their guys made their name in the run up to the 2009, in the run up to and during the 2009 Lions tour, and they're the same guys. I mean, you're talking about Schalkberger. Schalkberger was one of the big names in 2009. That's 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time in professional rugby, especially if you play rugby as hard as South Africans play rugby. You know.
I wasn't a clock.
No, but to go back to your early question, God, yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it's been great.
Yeah.
Like just some of the matches have been fascinating. Like England against Fiji, I thought, well, God, this could go. This could be a slaughter, but it wasn't. You know, it was only really the last 15 minutes that
They did a Leinster where in for the bonus point in injury time. Like, you know, that Leinster seem to have a habit of that for a few years, which we've now lost. But I think Fiji could surprise. I still think they could surprise somebody. Possibly it's going to be Wales.
I think it's going to be Wales.
But like Nandolo, that guy on the wing, Jesus Christ, he's like, he's the equivalent of a 10-ton truck that can go as fast as a Ferrari. He's just, I don't know how he carries all that stuff at the speed he can carry it, but he's 20 stone. Like he's a loose head prop.
yeah.
Who's 6'4" tall and can run like John Alamu. So,
But there's sort of the traditional second.
and he can kick, as we saw.
The traditional,
Badly, but he can.
traditional second tier nations, the gap between them and the first tier, it seems to be narrowing. Like, you've got the Canadas who are going to be beaten by 50, the Uruguays, and a few other countries like that. But the Fijis are coming a bit closer to England, even Argentina. Where a few years ago they would have been possibly stuffed by New Zealand. Again, a close
Argentina
enough game.
Argentina looked great.
Yeah.
And we actually
We had a question from Mick Hennessy, that guy, about about Argentina. He's saying, should Ireland worry about Argentina?
Shit, yeah.
Should we worry about Argentina next round? Well, I was
Just not
I
as much
said
as we
before,
should be worried about New Zealand.
Yeah, well, I'm actually worried about Romania in the next match. But of course you should be worried about Argentina. They're a bloody good side and they play Super Rugby and they beat South Africa at home and all those things. I think we're better than them, but I still think we should be worried about them.
Their handling was incredible. I thought they look so nonchalant or something. They look like maybe it's a bit of this Brazilian thing that they want to look cool as well as being able to do the job.
I think
they seem to have so much time on the ball when they're passing. Like they just in the early part of that game they looked like they were going to beat the All Blacks. Okay, the All Blacks came back into it after they're having their meltdown with two players in
I
it.
think the All Blacks are on a cusp. The All Black. This is Richie McCaw and Dan Carter's All Blacks that are becoming Sam Cane and Aaron Cruden's All Blacks, and they're right on the peak where one team is folding over into the other. So is there an opportunity there? Who knows?
We hope so.
There might be an opportunity as they go through kind of to a certain extent an identity crisis. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's Richie McCaw or Sam Cane. It doesn't matter if it's Dan Carter or Aaron Cruden or Bowden Barrett. They're feckin' brilliant.
Yeah, well, Sam Cane, when his first touch of the ball was to knock on near the line. Luckily, he recovered by scoring a try. You kind of half wondering that the lads just put him in to make him look a bit better after his first touch. But yeah, I'd rather face the All Blacks than Argentina every day and twice on Sundays.
You'd rather face Argentina than the All Blacks.
Sorry, yeah, I'd rather. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, lads. But still, Argentina are no pushovers.
No, I don't think they're pushovers.
Either of them could just as easily beat us.
But I think we could. I think I'd much fancier chances against Argentina than against the All Blacks.
Of course,
because there isn't that. There's some psychological baggage around Argentina, but not as much as there is around the All Blacks. I mean, we go into that game against the All Blacks.
We have to beat them sometime.
We have to beat them
just
sometime.
Rather it was in the final.
That's always what's on. We have to beat them sometime. You know.
Whereas we beat the Argies the last time we played them in the World Cup. Well, moving forward anyway, looking at sort of the fixtures that are coming up, we play Romania.
Les Kiss intimated quite strongly
so.
that everyone will get to play in these two games. Everyone will get pitch time during these two games. So however that works out, I'm sure
it works out is there's 8 players that weren't in the 23, so
they'll be in the 23.
They'll have to be in the 23.
And I'm sure that those guys, Keane Healy got a run out, so you maybe want to start him next time. Various different things like that. Give Toner and Donica Ryan a chance. Maybe try Henderson at 6. Jordy Murphy get a run. You never know. nobody could have predicted Fitzgerald at. I mean, how many times have we done this?
Curveball with Joe.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we would have got maybe 10, 12 of that team right for the game last week, but we wouldn't have got the rest of it, and it'll be the same this week.
Well, probably one of the big games anyway is going to be Wales and England at the end of the week.
England.
I have to say, if Wales get out of that group, I will have huge respect for them because the amount of injuries they're shipping, and also they've got a small playing population anyway, but they're losing guys left, right, and centre. So I think they have a short turnaround with Fiji in England, or else it's Fiji in Australia. But they're in serious trouble. So best of luck to them and all that, but I can't see them coming out.
No, I mean,
unless something happens and the whole Australian team get food poisoning or.
Wales is a great rugby country. A lot of their players are really, really great players. I mean, a lot of the current team are fantastic players and really good ambassadors for the sport.
Just don't have enough of them.
They just don't have enough of them. But the problem is their coach is like, for me, as if Parise and Mirko Bergamasco had a baby, right?
Cement head,
yeah,
as they call him.
He's a Slovene, but that doesn't matter. I think England will win this game. I think it's too important for England not to. I don't think Wales will have. I think it'll be a team too good with their current injury situation for them to be able to cope with England. I mean, England are not without injuries themselves, but the players they have to come in are a slight level above what Wales are bringing in. I mean, the question is, he's talking about Alan Wynne-Jones playing. Is he even fit?
I'd be surprised if he is, looking at the injury he got against us.
But they're saying he's good to go, but is he? I don't know. They seem to be a bit.
Will he play anyway? Is he so important to the?
I think he has to play. That's the point. I think
this is their World Cup.
Yeah,
they lose this, they're pretty much out.
Yeah, they have to play him. I think that they do have to play him, but whether he'll be, because England are strong at lock. I mean, they really are.
But didn't Gatland pick about 20 locks in the panel? He's plenty of them there to choose from.
Yeah, but I think that Alan Wynne-Jones brings a bit more than just his fit.
Well, he's their Paul O'Connell.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Very, very similar actually in terms of everything he does.
Well, like even you can see him, during the lines, like he became once O'Connell was injured. Well, when Warburton was injured and O'Connell was injured, and he stepped up and became the leader of the team.
Oh, he's worth points to them, just his presence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
But the question is, will it be enough? And will against an England team that looks strong?
To be honest, I'd be impressed enough if they go into the only way I think they're going to go into the final weekend, which is their game against Australia, in a position to still get out of the group, will be if Australia beat England. That would be the only way.
Because I have a feeling Fiji are waiting for them. So I do have a feeling Fiji are waiting for them. But they have the talented players. It's just about putting them on the park in a fit enough condition to play.
Yeah, they're carrying far too many injuries in the squad. Whatever about guys who've left the squad, they have a few injured players like Samson Lee. He got another smack there. Paul James looks like he might be in trouble. Liam Williams, they say, isn't serious, but he's only just back. That was his first game. So, with the best will in the world, he's going to have trouble getting up to the pitch of the game against England. Added to which, I don't think they have enough players to make a pair of teams. With the people they're missing.
The other side of it is,
for training during the week.
Wales should have an insight into how England are going to defend. After all, didn't Gatland admit that's why he picked the English defensive team for the Lions, so he could get an insight for how England would defend in this match?
There's a comment that might come back to bite him on the
I really hope it does, to be honest with you, because that's when I took against him, to be perfectly honest.
Wasn't the classiest comment he ever made.
No. And just one other thing, we got a tweet there about the sales of tickets for the match against Romania was 90,000 for Wembley Stadium.
It was a retweet of a second-hand tweet kind of thing, but apparently Peter O'Reilly in the Sunday Times had said that it was pretty much a sellout, which I expected to be a good crowd, and I didn't expect it to be that good. No way did I expected 50 or 60,000, but you didn't even expect that number.
No.
But maybe it could happen. It might not. It could be just that they've sold all the tickets. Not everybody's going to show up, kind of thing.
Well, last time I looked, the two big
because there's always constantly been tickets available for that match.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
All
But there's
four
so many
categories
events
were
on in
available.
London that weekend. You know, there's England matches. There's
Well, the two games that I saw that were looking like they had the most tickets were the two New Zealand and Australia games in the Millennium Stadium. Australia's won this week against Fiji, and I think it's Georgia that the All Blacks are playing in the Millennium Stadium, and both of them had plenty of tickets available, as did Ireland and Romania the last time I looked. So you know, if
It's
that,
hard to know. I mean, there's also a certain
huge
amount of.
Irish
wouldn't it be brilliant
expat-
to walk out or to go into the stadium and see 90,000 people
Yeah.
there?
Well, the
But I
huge
mean-
Ireland expat community in London, and the fact that the Italian game has been hard to get tickets for,
Yeah.
which is probably the more
Desirable fixture.
fixture. So just never know.
The thing is, I mean, there's also as
If
well.
it
I
is
mean,
full, they'll all be Irish. Well,
there's there's a certain amount, and there's a certain amount of World Cup tourism going on, which is great. I mean, people are going around and they're hitting and they're just planning their way around the UK to go match, and they mightn't be their own country or whatever. I was speaking to a group of lads in the fan zone afterwards. They were all wearing green suits, not leprechaun suits, but not a million miles away. And they were English lads, and I was saying, "All right, why are you Anglo-Irish or whatever?" No, it's just that the costume hire place didn't have any mountain uniforms left. It was as arbitrary as that. So it was.
You get your lumberjack
Yeah.
shirts out of the
Which
wardrobe
is
from the
pretty
80s.
cool in a way. You know,
70s.
they'd obviously just decided, right, we're going to be we're going to go to this match. Who we support? Well, can we get any? No. All right, we'll go with the Irish then.
Pretty good. Anyway, boys, thanks a million. And thanks very much for watching. And if you're going over to London at the weekend, have a safe trip.